So I actually wanted to go over a few things that are new to this package. The first thing, as you can see here, is this camera point system. So this camera point system is used for the lobby mostly. You can obviously use this for other things if you would like. But the camera system is best viewed if I just click play here. So you see this new menu has been added. There's obviously still all these Invector UI icons that can be removed. But you'll see in the background the camera is transitioning between points. And as you can see, those points are defined here by these arrows. And this little yellow line represents where it's going to look. So we can see that we can still log in here. This is going to look very similar. And you'll see if I log out, it gives me you left the lobby. So this is an error page. If any sort of network situation happens where you get disconnected or there's some error, this will actually display. So let's click pause there so I'm not drowned out by the music. The music will be included in this package. And also, it's very easy to modify these points. So if I come over here and I move this around, you'll see that this automatically updates, and this is the new path that the camera will follow. So let's put it back to what it originally was. So you can make some pretty funky paths if you want. And so you're not limited by if I put something in like, oh, I now have to delete this and re-add it. Nope, you can move it around as much as you want. And there's options here that you can follow. And everything in this package, if you hover over the variable and you don't know what it is, there's going to be a description. And I've made sure to do that with every single variable that is exposed to you. The other thing here is I've added spawn points. And spawn points are a nice way for you to be able to, when you first join, go to some place randomly or to a place that you define. So here, each spawn point has this spawn point tag. And that tag is defined inside the Network Manager. And so the Network Manager will automatically find all of the spawn points and randomly spawn your character in when you first log in. And if there's no spawn point found here, it will use the default spawn point. This Network Manager looks very similar, but as you can see, has a nicer UI. And there's also some error checking in here. So if I was to remove this, you'll see a bunch of errors happening in my console. But also here you'll see that this network error or this little error icon shows because you're missing this. So let's put it back in and it disappears. So I've done that for a few of my items, a few of my components here. And I've also modified, so I've included some more exposed Unity events. And I've also organized these so that you're not overwhelmed by all the options. And if you're ever debugging, I've also added, verbose console logging. And that UI that you saw at the very beginning, this is a UI that I've built brand new for this new release. And that's this component here. All of these will be pre-populated for you and pre-built for you. Again, you don't have to use this UI, but we'll get into that in a little bit. And you'll notice that there's a bunch of new icons here. So this spawn point icon, this network icon, but then also up here in the hierarchy, you'll see all these icons are displayed as well. So I've added these icons because it's really nice for when you're trying to know, is this syncing over the network? Is there a component that's attached to this that's going to make this sync over the network? Now you can quickly just look at it and identify it. And that's what I've done here, because if I click on that and I scroll down here, this sync item collection and that symbol is appeared here. So that's just a nicety that I've added for you. But now let's get into some other things that are new. So in the previous package, you had to completely modify the Invector scripts. It was a one-way modification. You'll see here in this main menu that's exposed to you, that's been completely removed. There's no reason to modify the Invector scripts anymore. This also makes it very nice and very easy to upgrade when new Invector code comes out. It's not going to potentially break this, but even nicer, if new code was to be released by this package and for some reason this package busted for any reason, it would not break. It would not break the underlying Invector code. So that's really, really nice. I also added this core objects here, as well as this nice new main menu that will direct you what you are supposed to do. Again, Network Manager and PreBuilt UI. You don't have to add the PreBuilt UI. The Network Manager is going to be required. And you can read about all of this here, as well as convert player. Now, if I click this, nothing's going to show up because I don't have any enabled players in my scene. So let's go to one of these disabled players and let's enable him. So now I go back to convert player, you'll see it's automatically populated in this list. I can still go back here to the manual player selection if I want to, but this is also something really nice. It's going to automatically find all the players that are convertible in your scene, and it will tell you what it's going to do in this little menu. I also added the option of adding a player name bar, so when a player joins, you can see their name above their head, kind of thing. That was a request made by a couple of you. And then also the convert scene is going to look really similar, but I also added the option of saying what you wanted to search for, essentially. So if I say show rigid bodies and I disabled that, you'll see most of these have been rigid bodies, and this list will display how many options or how many game objects are going to be converted in your scene. Just be aware of the limitation with Photon is that only a certain number of Photon views can be applied to your scene. So this would probably, in this situation, be a pretty bad idea for me to convert all the rigid bodies and add, let's click on one of this, add a, that's a network break component, add a Photon rigid body component. Most of these in this scene, I actually don't need that, so I would just disable it. And it wouldn't show me the rigid bodies. It would actually only show me the things that have the component v-breakable, v-help, or v-item. And then I can click on this and it would modify it. Again, you can remove it from the list if you want to. And there's always, of course, a little display menu of what it's going to be converting for you, which is very nice. And then the other thing is you can convert prefabs. Same thing. You can talk about what you want to scan for. And then the other thing that the old package used to do is that when you would convert this, it would actually convert it in place, meaning it would overwrite your object. The difference here is now it'll copy your object out to the resources folder with the modified code. So it will never replace the original object for you, which is very, very nice. And then the very last thing, which I believe is, in my opinion, the most beneficial, is the perform scene tests. So I'm going to go ahead and close this since we've gone over everything. This perform scene tests is super, super helpful when you're first building and learning about this. So let's go ahead and just run a series of tests now. So you'll see there's going to be a whole bunch of errors that show up, a whole bunch of warnings, and you can see that it ran a whole series of tests. 72 of them passed, but 44 of them failed. So depending on the number of objects that are enabled, a different number of tests are going to be run. But let's go ahead and click on some of these warnings, and let's click on this, and you'll see it's highlighting this unconverted player that I have, and you'll see that most of these are that guy. So you can click on any of these errors. The way this is separated out is that anything that shows up in an error state are things that you should fix immediately. This will cause errors in your game. The things that are in the warning state are things that may or may not be intended behavior, and you may or may not want to fix them, but they will still show up as a failed state here. So let's go ahead and disable this guy because I don't care about him at this point. So let's disable that. Let's clear this. And let's re-perform those tests, and you'll see all of those errors have gone away because we're not testing him anymore. But you'll see there's still 4 errors here. So let's click on this. You'll see it highlights the object for me. And let's read what the error says. So this is targeting the v-health controller component. And it says the v-health controller needs to have the send damage over network action applied on the receive damage unity event. The function sync health controller component isn't a it gets cut off here. If this isn't applied, damage will not be synced across the network. So let's go ahead and look at the events here, and it says on receive damage. So I got to go up here, add this, and add that missing action. So let's clear this, re-perform those tests, and you'll see that now instead of 4 errors, 4 failed tests, we have 3 failed tests because I fixed that previous failed test. And for me, this is unintended behavior. Now, in certain situations, I may not want to send the damage over the network. So it may be intended behavior, hence the reason it is in the warning state, not the error state. So yeah, that's pretty much the updates here. I'm still working on a few things to smooth things out, such as some finicky UI elements. But I hope the wait was worth it. And as always, if you need to get in contact with me, you can always email me or get in contact with me on the Invector Pro boards. Thanks.